Welcome back to Fantasy Football Today. Here we go. One question for each game. Detroit is at Indianapolis. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the best receiver in this game. Who's the second best wide receiver in this game?
Josh Downs.
In full PPR, it's Josh Downs. In non-PPR, I'd go Jameson.
Would you start both of them over Devontae Smith?
Yes.
I would start Downs over Smith in both formats. I would start Williams over Smith in non-PPR. I still take Smith in PPR. At some point, he's going to have a good game. I agree with Heath. It's tough to trust right now, but at some point, it's going to happen.
New England is at Miami. Starter sit Ramondre Stevenson, who is averaging 2.9 yards per carry in his last 5 games since returning from a foot injury. And the Dolphins are giving up 3.81 yards per carry to running backs in their last 5 games since their bye. Starter sit Ramondre Stevenson.
Must start running back. Can you go over the teams that the Dolphins have faced? Because I think that matters.
Yeah, they faced the Colts without Jonathan Taylor, but they were great against James Conner. They faced Buffalo. They faced Kyron Williams, did a good job against him. I don't remember how they did against James Cook, and Las Vegas last week. So actually not that bad a competition.
I think I wonder how much the Raiders game is factoring in there, because that was a terrible running performance from that team.
I don't think it's as much as you think. I can tell you real quick, running backs against Miami. Let's see. James Cook had 10 carries for 44 yards. Kyron, 15 for 62. Connor, 20 for 53 and a touchdown. Raiders were awful. Colts running backs were bad. So let's say they've been solid against good running backs.
I mean, Stevens had a good game against them in week 5, and just based on how this run defense has gone and how many touches he'll get, I think he's a must-start guy.
There's been 3 straight games, at least 6 catches for the running backs as a team. Maybe not one running back, but at least 6 catches, 3 straight games. And we've got 6 teams on a bye, and we don't even know if DeAndre Swift is okay. We don't like Nick Chubb. We don't like there's plenty of guys we just don't like either. So I think he's at number 2 running back.
Okay. Baltimore's at the Chargers. Rank these 3 players: Ladd McConkey, Zay Flowers, J.K. Dobbins.
Roquan Smith in. It's Flowers, McConkey, Dobbins for me. Roquan Smith out. It's Dobbins, Flowers, McConkey.
I will go Flowers, Dobbins, McConkey.
Ravens allow 3.1 yards per carry to running backs with Roquan on the field, 4.5 yards per carry to running backs with him off the field. It's only 23 carries, but their defense basically changed when they acquired him mid-season a few years ago. All right, next game, Kansas City at Carolina. You could not have a bigger difference in matchups, right? You've got the best run defense in football against a team that gives up, if not the most, close to the most fantasy points to running backs. So who is the best running back in this game?
Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
So I asked this question thinking more along the lines of Pacheco was going to play. You guys seem to think he's not going to play, or it seems like you're leaning that way.
Right.
Currently leaning that way, yes.
Okay. And why is that? Because the reports last week was that he was going to be ready to play this week.
But that's a coach's decision at this point. Like if he's healthy and ready to go, they don't have to play him. So like what Heath was talking about with how the schedule is playing out for them. I mean, again, like, do you risk him in this game, or is this the ramp-up game? Could be either one. Like, look at what McCaffrey's gone through. He doesn't look right yet. He's still going through essentially his preseason, and trying to get his legs underneath him. It's going to take a couple of games for Pacheco to get there, so I'm sure they want to have him ready to go, when they get to December. But do they need him? And how much does practice matter more than games at this point, just to get his legs underneath him and getting him healthy? So based on what Andy Reid said yesterday of, not a guarantee, I would anticipate, and I wasn't even thinking about the early game next week. Like, why would you look at what did Kevin Stefanski just do with Nick Chubb, right? They limited his snaps last Sunday because they knew they had the Thursday game.
Yeah.
Like the Chiefs don't need
listen, so it was. Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm not saying start Pacheco. I'm wondering if Pacheco plays, does it hurt Kareem Hunt enough to put Chuba Hubbard ahead of Kareem Hunt?
Right. We don't expect Pacheco to play.
All right.
Andy Reid said if and when they both play together. I don't know why you would rush a guy back off of a broken leg to play against the Panthers when you have a division game in 4 days.
Okay.
And also, I think you just look at it like in comparing the two backfields, we have no idea how much work Jonathan Brooks is going to get. So You're also talking about one team playing the worst run defense versus one team playing the best run defense, and both may be sharing touches. I'm still going to take Kareem Hunt over Chuba Hubbard if Pacheco plays.
All right, Tennessee's at Houston. Who's a better start, Tank Dell or Calvin Ridley?
Ridley.
Denver's at Las Vegas. Who's the best start, Jacoby Myers or a running back in this game?
I'll take Javonte over Jacoby.
Yeah, agreed.
Interesting. Okay, Jacoby Myers had one of the better games for a wide receiver at Denver earlier this year. 6 catches, 72 yards on 9 targets. He had 1 catch for 18 yards on 2 targets against Patrick Surtain. So he did most of his damage away from Surtain.
I wonder, this is the first time, unless I'm mistaken, the Broncos are seeing a team for the second time this season.
Yeah, I don't know.
So how much does game film from first matchup matter? And does Surtain just follow Myers the entire time?
Are you trying to insinuate that the Broncos might do a better job of making adjustments than the Raiders?
It's just he's not the kind of wide receiver that he would follow, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, he's emerged. He probably deserves it.
I don't dislike Jacoby Myers.
Where do you have him?
I did.
24.
We got Tampa Bay and the Giants. Dave, I'll start with you. Mike Evans after a 3-game layoff or Malik Neighbors playing with Tommy DeVito? Who do you like better?
Evans. Running right back into his arms is a must-start number 1 fantasy wide receiver.
I'll give you my favorite stat of the game of the week. This is courtesy of Heath Cummings from our show on Wednesday. Mike Evans needs to average 95 yards per game over his final 7 games to get his 11th straight season of 1,000 yards receiving. His high so far this year in a game is 94 yards receiving. So he needs to not only have his best game of the season, every game on average for the rest of the year, but we know how these late season pushes have gone for him. So hopefully it starts.
I wouldn't bet against him.
Yeah, I would not bet against him either, especially without Chris Godwin. We'll talk about
where do the Giants rank in yards per game to wide receivers.
You can look that up when we get to the game. So let's go San Francisco and Green Bay. Heath, which Packers receiver do you trust the most? Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks?
I do not trust a Packers wide receiver, but Jaden Reed is the highest ranked. I think I have Reed, Watson, and Romeo Doubs all projected within 10 spots in my wide receiver rankings between wide receiver. They're all number 3 wide receivers. But Reed is a good number 3. Watson is a boom bust number 3, and Doubs is a bad number 3.
Looking forward to breaking down that game in a little bit, just based on how the San Francisco secondary will try and defend these guys. Dallas and Washington, Dave, can you trust both Commanders running backs? Brian Robinson Jr., he knows my starter of the week. Austin Eckler has been fantastic, really, with and without Robinson over the last month. But can you trust both of them taking on Dallas?
I think the only game script that goes against Robinson is if the Cowboys build a lead and the Commanders have to play from. I can't even finish the sentence. Now Brian Robinson's going to get a good amount of work. We can get into some of those stats that I love about Brian Robinson when we get to the game. But yes, start. And Eckler is in number 3 running back, maybe low end number 2 running back in full PPR kind of canoe. Just the type of guy that you're hoping can get 4 catches, total 70 yards, something like that, and maybe get lucky and he scores.
I actually have Eckler ranked ahead of Chuba Hubbard, Tony Pollard, and DeAndre Swift as of now. So I like the setup for both Commanders running backs. Arizona and Seattle. Heath, who is the best pass catcher in this game, factoring in Trey McBride? You could throw in Noah Fant if you want to also, but the Cardinals tight end and both teams receivers. Who do you like the best?
I do not want to throw Noah Fant in. I will go with DK Metcalf, but I do have he and JSN pretty close. I think there's like 5 must-start pass catchers in this game, or at least 4. So, but yeah, it's DK.
I'm curious to get your take on Metcalf coming up later in the show, because the numbers against this defense are not good for him and not good for number 1 wide receivers lately. So the history is not good, but I'm a little nervous about DK after doing some research in this game. Minnesota and Chicago. Dave, are we ready to trust DJ Moore again after his best game since week 6 in the first game with Thomas Brown?
Adam pointed out to me last night that his ADOT last week was under 1 yard. So he got a lot of short screens. Bears did what I thought they were going to do, and that's simplify the offense for Caleb Williams. And if they do that again, yes, that would theoretically help DJ Moore as a number 3 receiver, particularly in full PPR. That's about as far as I'm willing to trust him.
All right, so we'll break down that game as well as the Bears and the Vikings meet each other for this big NFC North showdown. Last game here for our one question for every game. Heath, Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua as the Eagles and Rams meet up?
I'm going to go with Puka Nacua. Again, you're probably starting both of them, but I do think that Puka, a little bit more ability to create explosive plays. Kupp is closer to him in full PPR because of the targets and the catches, but I'll take Puka.
It's a brutal matchup. So we'll see if these two stud receivers can come through. And I'm curious if anybody wants to post in the chat, and please hit the like button. We would appreciate it. Do you have both Rams receivers on any of your fantasy teams? I do in one 10-team league where we had some IR issues. I think there was maybe one IR spot for every team. And somebody dropped Cooper Kupp early in the season. And I had Puka Nacua in my one IR spot, so I picked him up. And so now I have to make that decision every week with Malik Neighbors and Devontae Adams. It's a 3-receiver league with a flex. So trying to decide if I want to play both Rams receivers every week has been fun.